Guys, I had an awesome experience. So the Olympic teams are set. Greco-Roman, men's freestyle, women's freestyle. The Olympic teams are set. The games are approaching, right? You're probably reading all sorts of stuff about that, right? IOC, are they going to do this? Okay. Hold all of those thoughts because the teams in the sports are ready, but particularly in the sport of wrestling, of which I have been part of that community since I was 9 years old. But for the last number of years, I'm as a fan and nothing more than that. I coach with the local high school and things like this, but I don't get to go to all these high level competitions. If Flo's covering it, if I can get a feed somewhere, I can be part of it. NBC picked this up and covered the trial, so it was a little bit easier. ESPN covered the NCAAs. Your Big Ten network steps in. I mean, there is a little bit of coverage out there if you're a wrestling junkie, but getting to go to this camp for me was very thrilling. I would only be able to compare it to, say, like a kid at Disneyland. And when I get out to Atlanta, John Bardis is putting this thing on. He's got 8 mats rolled out. He's got the big screen, so now we can watch technique, and the coaches can break down actual footage. Then the guys can work on it. He's got all the food right there. The hotels, you don't even need a car. You can just walk on 2 feet. You're going to have three squares a day, and you're going to have 2 training sessions with the best minds and the best coaches and the best technology. I mean, right? Not for nothing. I will tell you, when I walked in and see that John Bardis, the size of a movie screen, and Bill Zadek is running slides and showing some of the techniques that are being scored with at the European Championships, at the Russian Nationals, and we can break it down, and then our own guys can go back and work on this. I mean, this was really something. Wrestling is at a level right now that I simply didn't know it existed. I did not know this level of wrestling existed, and within 10 minutes of me being there, I turn around and Jordan Burroughs is going with Kyle Schneider. I mean, you want to talk about a dream workout if you are a wrestling fan of any level. Within 10 minutes, I turn around and there's Burroughs and Schneider grabbed a hold of one another. So while that's going on, you got these 2 guys that kept getting in the way. These guys kept getting in the way. I'm trying to watch Burroughs. I'm trying to watch Schneider. Oh, these 2 guys I should mention is McKenna and Yanni, a rematch of 2 years ago's NCAA finals. They're in my way. The NCAA final is like in the way of what I'm trying to see. I mean, this was just an amazing experience. So, but you have a couple of stories going into this, okay? Jaden Cox, Kyle Schneider. Are these 2 going to work out? Are these 2 even going to say hello? Jordan Burroughs, Kyle Dake. Are these 2 going to work out? Are these 2 even going to say hello? And I'm watching for it, quite frankly. If I'm going to have something to come back and report to you guys, I better have something better than a swing single and a snap down. I had better have some drama and a little bit of a story. So I'm just keeping my eye on this kind of stuff. But like on the very first day, Burroughs and Snyder end up, Burroughs is showing Kyle some outside step stuff that he's doing, which is a whole series that I have seen Jordan do, but I've never seen him sit and teach to anybody before. It was just fascinating, right? To have 2 of the greatest minds in the sport working on a position. Oh, by the way, you have Bill Zadek walking around. You have Lee Kemp walking around to add to these kinds of things, to add to these types of conversations. You've got Jaden Cox, who is a madman. Is that a fair way to say it? There were 6 workouts on the first day. He did all 6, which include going live goes with John, the current Olympian at 86 kilograms. So now you got the freestyle world champion going with the sitting Olympian in Greco-Roman in a Greco practice. Like, there was just things that you're not going to be able to see. You got Gable on the mat, but you got Gwiz on the same match. You got Gable getting ready for the Olympics, and then we're hearing rumors of opportunities that he's going to have well beyond and after the Olympics. You got Gwiz buckled down, having to humble himself, which probably isn't easy for a 2-time medalist to do, but he's looking at December for the World Championships being put on. So you have all of these goals, but you have this overriding camaraderie that no matter what happens outside of this room, we all agreed when we got on an airplane, we all agreed when we accepted the invitation of John Bardis to come out and do this, we are going to be Team USA. And that's a very easy thing to say. It's a very hard thing to do. And that simply doesn't happen without the glue that was Jordan Burroughs. Without Jordan Burroughs actually coming there and doing it, it is no more than just words. That some coach or some adult in the room or some guy like Chael that some people are going to respect and listen to comes in and says, we all have got to come together. It's no more than that. Jordan did it. And it was hard. I asked Jordan that question straight up. What is it like to be at camp not being the Olympian? And his words straight back to me were, it sucks. And then he elaborated. And he said, but as hard as it may be for me, as much as I might have to swallow down on some pride, I've been here the last 7 years and other guys have had to come in and help prepare me. So I don't get to walk around feeling bad for myself. I did this to someone else 7 previous years. So now it's my turn and I've got a new goal. And I've got to tell you, that is a level of inspiring that infuriates me that isn't being covered by, say, a Sports Illustrated or a major publication right now. I don't think that there's too many better storylines in all of sport right now than the feud between Burroughs and Dake, one of which I believe is going to win the Olympics and the other is going to win the world right here in the same year. And the same thing goes with Schneider and Cox, one of which may win the Olympics and the other which may win the world right here. Right here, right now. I don't know that you have any better characters that are more interesting than, say, an Anthony Valencia, a Forrest Molinaro. I don't think that you've got anybody more interesting than the opportunities that Gable is going to have and currently has presented to him. Oh, by the way, you got Gwiz, you got Mason Paris right on Gwiz's ass. I mean, these guys can't get this thing figured out. Okay, fine. We don't have to. We don't ever have to get this figured out. Let's get a referee in here. Let's get a couple of singlets on and we'll just do it the old-fashioned way. So as we're working through this whole thing, okay, you then have Kyle Dake on another side of the mat. And I have to say it that way. Like Dake, there was an aura. There was a way when Dake came in the room that Dake was going to do things the way that Dake believes they should be done. And Dake, as the 2-time reigning world champion, has the right to that opinion. But it was different. It was not what everybody else was doing. It was not just check boxes. It was not necessarily always go in sync and go in order. He had a very clear plan. He consulted this plan with a world champion who happens to be himself, but also with some very good coaches. You get Tom Ryans in the room. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. Tell you another thing I took away from this camp that I don't think Dan Gable's ever been given credit for. And you all respect Dan Gable whether you're a wrestling fan or not. Everybody loves Gable, but Gable's ability to create champions is the only thing. Gable's intensity, Gable's way to weaponize pace, these are the only things that I've ever heard Dan Gable spoken about or spoken for. Dan Gable made gentlemen. He made some real gentlemen. Terry Steiner, Bill Zadek, Royce Alger, just by example, Coach Tom Ryan, these guys who were in the room and giving to the next generation, giving up of their own time, giving up of their own knowledge with this one common goal, do have something in common, which is Dan Gable. And I don't know that I've ever heard Coach Gable spoke about for the character development and some of the young men that he touched and worked with and what they went on to do in life, which in this case is largely to help and give back to others, making the community bigger, but also making the community better. And I don't know that I've ever heard Coach Gable spoke of like that. And perhaps at the time in the 80s, in the 90s, in the mid-90s, when Gable's out there winning world and Olympic championships, winning NCAA records, doing these 3-peats and 4-peats and 9-peats, when he's doing all these things, it probably was too early to give him that credit. How do we know how these young people are going to turn out? How do we know if these are going to be upstanding members of society that have integrity, that have honesty, that have trustworthiness, that have some of these values that you're hoping to preach, you're hoping to instill? But how do we know if you succeeded? We really don't. Time needs to go by. But then you can look back. Here we are 2 decades after Dan Gable retired. Now we can look back. And it is time that we can observe. And it is time that we can recognize that this wasn't just about, right out in Iowa City, this wasn't apparently just about a high crotch and a snap down. This wasn't just about a whistle and trying to run a guy into the canvas. This was about building people. And I think that Dan Gable, though he wasn't at this camp and though he largely doesn't touch this Olympic team, he would very much be wrong if he didn't take a little bit of credit. Terry Steiner quite possibly is going to be the first coach in history where every single one of his athletes medals. That is quite possible in women's wrestling right now. 2 of them favored to do it. 3 of them wouldn't be a surprise. In addition to those 2, they might all bring home a medal. It's never been done before. And I think that Bill Zadok is in a very interesting spot as well. I think Gable on accident is going to win the gold medal. I really think that. I watched Gable wrestle Gwiz. Match 2 would have been the second of their wrestle-offs, but there was a point in that match with 60 seconds left. Gable looks up at the clock and he turns back to Gwiz, and Gable is now different. Gable has looked at the clock, he sees there's a minute left, and he's just going to run out the clock. He's done trying to wrestle Gwiz. On accident, Gable found 4 more points. If you go back and you watch that match, you'll see what I mean when I use the word accident. He looks up, he looks back to his opponent, he's now changed. He's just going to run out the clock. He's going to learn to manage a match. Very good. He scored 2 more takedowns. I think he's going to win the gold. I think that Dake is going to win the gold. I think I'm leaving out the most dominant wrestler of them all in David Taylor. So there's some very exciting things that are going on with this team right now, right in front of our face. I'm throwing the big dogs at you. We got plenty of other hardware we can go out there and get. I think that Tracy Hancock, when this whole story is said and done, is going to go down as the greatest Greco-Roman wrestler this country has ever had. I say that based on one thing, which is that he's on his 4th team. Is it his 4th team? And he's 23 years old. I just think he's got longevity. Aside from athleticism, aside from the fact that I saw him take the Olympic champion from Ukraine, throw him on his head and pin him in 40 seconds, aside from all of that, I just think that he's going to have more opportunity because of the youth. Look, there's many times that I've said this statement. But every time I've said it, it's been true, and it's getting truer. There has never been a better time to be a fan of American wrestling.